What's up guys, welcome back. I'm sitting here surrounded by some of my favorite vintage RCs. I've done some videos on these in the past, but I haven't covered all of them, and don't worry, I will get around to doing that. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. Normally I discuss, the significance of a particular RC. In this one I'm going to cover my top 5 picks from 1995 to about 2005. I picked that 10-year period because I consider that to be the golden heyday of RC. That's basically when a lot of RCs became mainstream and, obviously not only at home, but they were more or less mass marketed. They transitioned from being mostly kits to mostly RTRs. Today, if you buy a Traxxas, that's a kit. Oh, hold on, you can't even do that, right, I think? Unless some of you guys buy Traxxas kits. I mean, I never have, right? But today, unless you have a battery, you have a 2.4 gigahertz radio, you have all your tools, all your equipment included in the box, you're not going to be happy. But back then, a lot of this stuff was built at home by the buyer, which is both good and bad. Obviously, it will be a lot more expensive to buy all your components separately. But that's not the point. Right now, let's start off with my top 5 picks. And keep in mind, I'm going to try to cover a segment of each type of RC. So we're going to do a truck, a car, maybe a micro sedan, something like that. Now, a lot of this you're going to notice is going to be from the same type of categories. Now, that's not because the other brands were not good. It's just that they were not as successful as, let's say, Traxxas or HPI. Those are just facts. Those are the most common brand name RCs today, and they're the ones that really survived in the marketplace. Let's start off with a 10 scale touring car segment. I'm going to pick the HPI RS42 as the best RC from 1995 to 2005. The reason is, this platform has had significant and massive influence in our hobby, guys. Not only has HPI developed really nice looking, detailed, beautiful bodies, some examples are right here, for this category of RC, which I think no other manufacturer at this time was doing. I mean, if you look at Traxxas to this day, they are great RCs, don't get me wrong, but their bodies are not realistic at all. I think maybe Kyosho and Yokomo had some realistic looking bodies, but they were nowhere as prolific as HPI. They had so many bodies, guys, I didn't even know which one to pick. I think I had the Mustang SVT at that time and a Camaro SS. Beautifully designed, scale looking bodies, fantastic. Another reason is, to this day, this chassis is basically very good. I gotta say, all the components on this one work. I've ran this exact car in another video of mine. Very good engineering, very good use of space. I gotta say, absolutely no flaws other than maybe the belt drive system, although some people do like them. I personally like the belt drives. It gives the car kind of a soft feeling instead of that crunchiness of the dog bones. Okay guys, there it is. Obviously there was some competition for this RC from Associated and Kyosho and Yokomo, but this has really survived the test of time today. My next pick is the HPI MT. This is going to be covering the stadium truck category. This is a very old one. This is probably the oldest RC I have. This is an original HPI MT. You could tell it has a plastic pan chassis, fairly wide stance. Back then, this was called a monster truck, guys. I know, today you would never call this a monster truck. It's just silly, right? But back then, I think only the Kyosho was out. They had the Kyosho USA 1. There were some other Tamiyas that were out. But, this could have passed for a monster truck back then. This one is a little bit lowered, so it had a normally higher suspension than this. This is the original HPI Baja Bug body. Really nice. This has some kind of issue here with the front body mount, but I'm going to check that out later. I just purchased this on an eBay transaction. I will be doing a full video on this, guys. This actually has a really nice brusher system inside. I'm very surprised. We're going to see how it does. Back in the day, these were offered as kits only. They were discontinued after the first version here, but the chassis is very significant. The scale, the size is very significant. I also have 2 other HPI MTs. These are both MT2s. This is a slightly newer one, but they are nitro. So this platform went pure nitro in the future. But today, if you look up anything in the forums, you'll see almost nothing but good reviews on these. And these are becoming fairly popular and collectible. I personally love them. I remember seeing one of these run years ago. And yeah, at that time when you had really bad battery technology, you had like cells with writing on them because you wanted to see what the voltage in each cell was. You had to build your own batteries with battery bars and, battery holders. Let me actually show you some of the stuff from back in the day that I had to use. This is a battery holder. So you would put your NiCad cells in here, and pretty much put battery bars on top, solder them in, and hope that you did a good enough job. In terms of this chassis' influence on today, I think it is fairly significant. That's also why it's a pick for this category. This is a four-wheel drive stadium truck, and guess what, guys? We still have four-wheel drive stadium trucks that are basically the same size as this. This is a deal that you cannot pass up. If you get one of these on eBay, make sure you buy it. They have very good components. I actually read some of the memorabilia from some other YouTubers, and these had fiber reinforced components on them. Really cool, guys. I got nothing in front of me right now, guys. There's only one reason for that. I don't have this RC car. My next pick for the micro category is going to be the HPI Micro RS4. I did have about 2 of them in the past. You could have bought them as a ready-to-run or a kit version. I remember there used to be whole segments for racing on these indoors. I used to go to races indoors, like in the basement of hobby stores, and it was just so fun. The Micro RS4 chassis was fairly cheap to maintain. It was a small RC car with once again, best looking bodies of the day. They were just so nice looking. I had a Corvette body at that time, and I think a Mustang body. Just fantastic. I've been looking for a few of those myself on eBay, and prices are fairly steep today. The chassis itself was straightforward. It was simple. It's a flat pan chassis with slick tires that were fairly nice because you could adjust the width of the tires so the stance could be adjusted. And generally they were obviously brushed motors. You could have upgraded to a slightly larger Team Orion motor at that time, and if you did that, your thing was going to basically kill everybody in the races. Of course, if the club lets you run those. The batteries, yeah, you had to use regular batteries, but you could have also upgraded to a rechargeable pack, and it was nice, guys. This is before the days of lithium polymer. The Micro RS4 was a very good scale looking car, and I will be getting one hopefully in the future. If you guys want to see me do a video on that, put in the comments below. I'll make sure to spend some of my money and buy it for you. My pick for best monster truck of 1995 to 2005 and best dog from that same time frame, and I gotta say they both aged very well, and yet they still make them basically the same today. The Traxxas Revo. This was an easy choice to make. When this thing first came out, it was just revolutionary. It's been on the Reader's Car Action Choice Awards for Best Nitro Truck on RC Car Action magazine for the past 15 years. So since 2004, guys, this thing was about in the mid $400, and it was not a bad deal for what you got at that time. This was one of the most revolutionary trucks because not only the suspension system itself, it was just such a cool chassis. Look at that. Nothing else looked like this on the market at that time. Everything else was basically a flat type buggy chassis. It was just kind of not exciting if you remember the T-maxx, right? It was good for what it was, but this thing was revolutionary. This was one of the first trucks to offer any sort of electronics inside. Not only did it have a forward reverse automatic 2-speed transmission with electric start, it had Opti drive. Now time has told us that really didn't do anything. I took mine out eventually, but it did work at that time when people used to kind of engage reverse without stopping first. So it did prevent you from doing that, although it was relatively glitchy, but still a cool concept. I never needed it. This chassis is just so great that they still basically use the same suspension system today. It's called Revo Spec. This is where it all came from, and I definitely do think that this truck belongs on this list, and I'm always going to like it. My final top pick is also going to be for the monster truck category, but it is very significant, and I know almost all of you out there is going to have a story or two about this. It is the Traxxas Tmax. I don't currently have one. That's why I'm sitting here with an empty table in front of me, other than of course these two, but these are the future spawns of the Tmax, I'd like to think. The Tmax is still around today. When it came out, it was the only ready-to-run nitro 10-scale monster truck with electric start. I mean, you gotta realize, it did a lot for the hobby. It basically cemented the 10-scale monster truck ready-to-run category. Not only did it really kind of push the hobby from electric RC into nitro, but it also really pushed a lot of people to buy their first ready-to-run instead of their first or second kit. I personally always purchased ready-to-runs because they were just cheaper. There was no point in buying a kit and then just bashing it around. I wasn't a racer, there was just no point in that, and I gotta hand it to Traxxas. They understood the market at the time. Doesn't mean there aren't any other really great monster trucks in that category from that time, but Traxxas really knew what they had to do to succeed at that time, and they're still doing it. The Traxxas T-maxx body style has been around for, basically 20 years so far. I think it's been around longer than some of those kidney-shaped BMW grills that people really love today, right? Okay guys, I'm left with nothing on the table. That just means I have to fill it with something else, right? I know, exactly. So there's my list for the top 5 picks of the best RCs. I think the game changers in the RC history. Doesn't mean there aren't other ones that could have existed. I personally just picked the ones that I had a lot of familiarity with, and I know a lot of you also did. And they were just so accessible at the time that, you know what, we just shouldn't bash them just because of that. A lot of times people put a target on HPI or put a target on Traxxas, and you gotta realize it's easy to put a target on a massive corporation like that. That is just what happens naturally. And then we kind of, encourage these lower brand manufacturers. I remember when I was a kid, people really liked Sen. Anybody remember Sen, C-E-N? They were terrible, they're still terrible, and they were just so overpriced. But that's this first video series. I am going to be doing a couple of other interesting ones like this, so please comment, like, and subscribe. And you know what? Make a suggestion or two for the top 5 categories of RCs and anything you want me to do. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time.